And so let's go through now each of the systems. And the first, we're going to start, first of all, with Google Groups. We're going to then go into G Suite. We'll talk about Trello and Slack after that. Okay, so groups in Google, basically, if you're looking to start out with your team and you haven't created, if you've done nothing so far. So, for example, if you're a candidate or a project, say a campaign manager, or and you're at the earliest stages of a campaign, you're looking to start meeting with a small team to decide if you're going to run, or if you're further along now and you've potentially got a core team together, but you're looking to grow in a particular area of the city, or you've got a new team that's coming on to manage an event. But at the beginning of a project is a great time to take a moment to set up your systems in such a way that in the way that you want, and that is going to support and allow you to grow then going forward. So I'm going to go through groups here. Basically the first thing on any project and any campaign I recommend for teams to do is to set up their group structure. And the reason for that is that groups can provide you with permissions, permission access to drive folders, as well as allow you to communicate with your team. So very quickly and effectively. So those are two core things that you need in order to do any work together. You need to be able to send updates to a sizable group of people, and you need to be able to share documents. Okay, and so groups allows you to do that. Now, groups would be one of the suite of Google tools that you have access to. Now, the set of Google apps, you do not need a Google Suite or a G Suite account in order to access this set of Google apps. You can, of course, create a free Gmail account and have access to the vast majority of functionality we're going to go through today. However, setting up a G Suite account has a lot of benefits and is very cost effective, and I definitely recommend it for campaigns. So G Suite pricing, we take a look at G Suite pricing plans. They start at about $5 a month. You can $50 a year US if you pay annually, and so that's a comparable would be, say, Microsoft 365, and its pricing, I believe, is $10 a month, or so it's about double. The added benefit of G Suite is that, of course, it's all users that have Gmail accounts or any Google account have access to the wide range of functionality that you're going to get with a Google Suite account. Whereas if you go with the Microsoft suite of tools, everybody is going to have a Microsoft account or have Microsoft Office and whatnot. And I can't stress it enough how the difference between using a Microsoft product locally on your machine and using a set of software tools that basically I've seen increasingly teams that choose to use cloud-hosted documents, like office products like Google Suite, versus teams that are managing individual files with version tracking and all of this locally that they're trying to email around, they're not storing their documents in a cloud. They don't have the ability to manage a document, say like the one you're looking at here, which is a slide deck that's in Google. versus a local, say, PowerPoint slide in Microsoft, that the level of efficiency in terms of time spent figuring out which is the most recent version, it decreases the number of people that can collaborate on a document, and basically just restricts the effectiveness of the overall campaign. Okay, so so definitely, although there's similar functionality between Microsoft and Google, for a small campaign team with limited in-house resources to and certainly be purchasing accounts for people and whatnot, Google is a much preferable option. And so let's talk about the setup of G Suite. So G Suite, as I said, is $50 a year, and you don't need a G Suite account. But if you do get one, you have access to a control panel where you essentially get to manage your domain. So, for example, this is how we've got, say, Chris at DemocracyKit.org. We're using G Suite, so we would have set up in our G Suite account our domain, DemocracyKit.org. And I know this is probably quite a bit of detail, but it is important for you to understand what's going on in the background. Increasingly, everybody who's a leader on a team, on a campaign team, should understand these basics. And these are very basic details about how, for example, your Google Suite or your domain is set up. Okay, so basically we've got a Google Suite account with a domain that's been added to the account here, and we've got the ability now to configure across our Google Suite account our company profiles, our campaign profile. You could do things like add your logo, and more importantly than the adding of logo and whatnot, you've got the ability to manage your Google Apps, your Drive settings, calendar settings, email settings, group settings, and whatnot. Okay, so this suite is if this is totally overwhelming and you're feeling lost, then perhaps you need to find somebody on your team who is more comfortable with managing this as well. You can engage a third party in order to help you out with this. So that's the G Suite setup, high level. Now let's talk about some of the specific tools and going back to groups. So you can see that the groups here on top left, the DemocracyKit logo is showing up there because we're using Google Groups. And you can see that we've got a whole bunch of groups in DemocracyKit. And so these groups give access to the right members of the community, and without having to manage individual files and access at the individual level. Okay, so you can see here, if we go into a specific group, we're going to look at a group here, which is the Open Democracy Project Alberta group, and you can see we've got members in the group. And if we go to the actual drive here, you can see that we've got under the Calgary group in the Open Democracy Project Alberta Regional Hub here, if I go to share in this group, you can see that we've got the Calgary at DemocracyKit.org Open Democracy Project Calgary group is shared. So this group that we have here set up, again, it's very easy to set up a group here. You can simply just create a new group. You can create as many as you'd like. And once you've done that, you can just add people to the group here. Once you've added people to the group, you can say direct add members to the group. And then the people are part of this group, and this group's address is Calgary at DemocracyKit.org. Okay, so if I email this Calgary at DemocracyKit.org, it looks like any other, it's just an email address, but it goes to this group, and then you can manage the settings. For example, you could make it so that only managers of the group can emailed a list. Okay, so this is the way in which many of you would have gotten updates sometimes if I'm sending them out, or if a leader in Calgary, DemocracyKit leader in Calgary is sending out an update, you'll get an email that's going to Calgary and you're getting it because you're in that group. But you also have access to all of the folders in the ODP Calgary group, okay, because we've added under permission settings, Calgary at democracykit.org, as well as an admin group and a national group for DemocracyKit. Okay, so this you can start to see how really now greatly simplifies when you're bringing on new members. You don't have to be worrying about adding everybody to the specific folder. You can just simply add them to the group, and then you have a sort of double benefit. They will get updates that you're sending out if you need to, again, for volunteer organizing purposes, be sending out updates, and they will have automatically the permissions necessary in your drive. Okay, so with that, I think I'm going to pause for a moment and take a question or two on the setting up of groups, and because I want to move on to setting up now Drive, but I'd love any questions before we do that. So you can ask a question. I'm going to unmute folks for a moment. I'm actually going to pause the video recording for a moment, and we can take a question. You should all be unmuted now. And if does anybody have a question that they'd like to ask about the groups? Okay, so we're going to move right along. Okay, so you should be able to see my my screen again here. Okay, so once you've set up your groups, and I'd suggest to get started setting up just a small number of groups, say 2 or 3 groups, an administration group, let's say a finance group, and a team-wide, say, leadership group, okay, just to get started. Those typically would be the user groups that are necessary. So you might, for example, if we were going to get started from scratch here, might set up a new campaign folder. Actually, what we'll do is, we'll even use the Team Drives feature, which is a neat feature in Google Suite. You can create a new team drive. The benefit of creating a team drive rather than just your drive in your drive folder is that a team drive will mean that all files that are created in the team drive are owned by the entity. In this case, for example, we're looking at the DemocracyKit Google Drive, and so all of the files created are owned by that entity rather than the individual, which in terms of down the road can be definitely beneficial in terms of actually making sure that you're retaining the files that are created for your campaign. So let's just try to create this one more time. Okay, so we're going to create, let's say, a folder here, and you might want to start off with just a couple of high-level folders. You could say campaign, let's say accounting or finance. And you might say create a leadership team folder. Okay, so once you've created these, say if you have an administration group, that the administrator might be your IT lead. It could be your campaign manager, your the candidate, other core folks that need to have access to everything. And then typically you want to keep some of your financial information separate, and then have the leadership team have access to pretty much everything, maybe except for some financial information at the beginning. And then as you go, you can build out that structure. So within, say, the leadership team folder, you could create subfolders for your various working groups, let's say. So you might have a communications folder. You might have a say a canvassing or field field operations. Say, let's say you might want to have, you know, a volunteer. I mean, you're getting the idea here. I would suggest, if you're using groups and folders here, keeping it as simple as possible. So there's no need to be spawning all sorts of groups on a local campaign. Let's say a councillor or a school board trustee campaign. Typically, you're going to have, the leadership. Most of the folks that are going to have access to Drive files are going to be close enough that it's would likely be fine to share with them either all of the leadership team folders in this case, or maybe you need one level down, which would be say have access to a subset of the folders, or maybe then you do teams that people who have joined the communications team or field operations. But there's no, what I'm essentially getting at here is there's no need to be setting up all sorts of different groups until you actually need them. So